Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It's 3:15. We're going to get started. And I want to commend all of you for hanging in for the whole day, last session of the afternoon, so I'm hoping that you're all invigorated from a lot of great speakers today. I'm going to start by welcoming the whole panel and make sure that I can use this little guy here. So we are in session 20, which is considering your next system, decision-making strategies to get you there. So welcome to all of you, and I'd like to introduce our panelists. I'm going to start with Melody. Melody Hayes is the director, DHCS CA-MMIS Division. Melody has dedicated her career to State of California Government Services and has had a long career with the Office of Systems Integration, large, complex projects, including CA-MMIS, of course. She also has a presence at the national level, doing some planning. Next to Melody is Lorenza Pennington, and Lorenza has a unique blend of 25 years private and public sector experience, has been with the state for about 5 years now, has worked on DHCS projects. She's currently the project director for the MEDS Modernization Project and has a number of certifications. She's a Scrum Master and has methodologies in PMBOK, Agile. You guys heard Agile today? Yeah. ADCAR, CMMI, and ITIL. And on the end, we have Tim Sires with Quantum Consulting Services. And Tim has over 25 years of IT experience as well. Private sector, he works for Quantum, so I think that's close to public sector. He's currently vice president and has a emphasis on legacy modernization. He's had the privilege of doing business rules extraction for the CA-MMIS project and has done some legacy modernization work for Department of Social Services. And I'm Christine Dunham. I'm the president of Quantum. I've been consulting for 10 years now, and I am currently honored to be doing planning for Lorenza and the MEDS Modernization Project. So, drop my notes. With that, I'm going to just kind of do a quick overview. We have 45 minutes, which is not a very long session. So just to remind folks that this is about 2 case studies, CA-MMIS and MEDS Modernization, and talking through their experiences in taking their projects through a decision-making process and really figuring out the path forward on a couple of pretty complex issues. So I'm hoping that as you hear from Melody and Lorenza, and as we wrap it up with Tim from Quantum, you'll be able to walk away with some ideas on how to deal with making a transition from one system to the next. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Melody. Just have to tap this little guy here. There you go.
Okay, so that's the same. Okay, thank you for coming today. I wanted to just kind of frame this a little bit as this isn't a session about legacy system replacement per se. This is about some of the decision-making that we've gone through and the governance and buy-in to move forward with the strategy here for CA-MMIS, and then Lorenza will have a little different approach with MEDS modernization. I am Melody Hayes. I am the Deputy Director of the CA-MMIS Division at DHCS. A little background, the CA-MMIS system oversees and validates claims adjudication for Medi-Cal. We pay out $19 billion a year. We have 140,000 Medi-Cal providers and over 14 million beneficiaries. We have a large infrastructure. It's a large legacy system. There's 220 plus million web transactions and 1,500 plus annual system edits and audits. This is the largest Medicaid management information system in the country. The current contract, we have an integrator that is supporting the legacy system. The current contract is $1.6 billion. It's also the largest MMIS contract in the country. That includes both the IT system support as well as the business operations. So it's not like a normal state organization where you have an office building of state employees who use that system. We actually have outsourced the business operations for the claims adjudication, also for fee-for-service claims in California. And that is a common model across a lot of states. So our situation. Our current vendor's contract included both the legacy system takeover and maintenance and operations and the business operations, the original contract, and then they were also supposed to deliver a new modern system replacement for the MMIS system. The state and the vendor reached a settlement in April. The vendor was not going to be able to deliver the new replacement system, so we reached a settlement. One of the outcomes of that settlement is the current legacy contract for operations and business operations is now going to expire in 2019 instead of 2021. That means we now have to have an approach to continue to extend our legacy operations. At the same time, the Centers for Medicaid Services, who is our federal oversight agency and who provides 75 to 90% of our funding, where we're directing states to have a modular approach to their MMIS replacement systems. So both of those things kind of converged at the same time. We were already looking at what we were going to do about our legacy replacement with a modular strategy. With the end of our contract now being moved up 2 to 3 years, we then also had to make sure we had a plan to ensure stable legacy operations while we plan for modular replacements. But the modular approach that the CMS is directing the states also means that the state is now put in the role of being the system integrator. They will no longer fund a large system integration contract for one big monolithic contract for $500 to $1 billion to one system integration vendor. So that puts the responsibility on the state then to have to take on that role of being the system integrator, because you will have a multi-vendor environment and a modular environment. So as I said, we were originally focused on the modular planning, but the contract end date also required us to focus on the legacy system support and the modular replacement approach. So in October of 2015, we knew that we would have reached some kind of an agreement and a settlement with our vendors. So we started the planning activity prior to the settlement being completed. So we defined the scope of planning and agreed on a set of guiding principles for our planning activity. We assigned empowered state staff to lead each domain identified, and the team was invested in the outcome. So by having the team all as part of the planning, we were trying to make sure we had the buy-in early with the team. We did develop a common data collection tool to support our domain leads in planning and artifact development. So we had some standard templates we used to gather information for certain strategic areas we were looking at and how we were documenting our decisions and our approaches. So in January 2016, we were looking at, as a result of knowing that the contract was going to probably end sooner than we had planned, we had to look at a risk assessment regarding the best options to ensure we had stable legacy operations. So that started out with a high-level procurement assessment and then a high-level roadmap of the different procurement options that we were going to consider. So we started communicating that because that was really our highest risk area, was the end of the contract in 2019 and how were we going to ensure our business operations continued. So we developed the procurement roadmap. We started briefing that through our DHCS Directorate, our Health and Human Services Agency, Department of Technology, Department of Finance, and Department of General Services. Between January and April 2016, as we were socializing the procurement roadmap, we started having, through a series of briefings with the agency and Department of Technology and Department of Finance, stakeholders starting to input to us about, well, okay, but you have procurement, but what about the rest of what's going to happen to your organization? Are there other things that you need to be thinking about? And it was really a really good dialogue, because they continued to provide input to us, and we continued to refine our CA-MMIS message and our strategic direction. So the procurement roadmap evolved into the CA-MMIS Go-Forward roadmap. So it's a 7-year timeline of major activities. I'm going to show you what it looks like here in a little bit. But basically, through all of those conversations, we were able to refine all of the work that laid out ahead of us. It wasn't just the legacy operations. We had to look at our organization, and then we had to look at how we were going to transform the organization to have this new support model where the state becomes the integrator, as well as the resources needed, and then our future modular planning also. So basically 4 work streams, so that's what we call it, was 4 work streams. So we developed that roadmap. That was socialized through all of our state governance as well as our federal partners. So you might be sensing a theme here. So all stakeholders were kept informed, and every step of the way in this process we were briefing them. So there was awareness of all the parties as to our approach and what our intent was through our roadmap. So the roadmap, we had the briefing, all the briefings, and we continued to refine it all the way through. The procurement roadmap did evolve into the Go-Forward roadmap. Sorry, I went backward. So as we had agreement and concurrence with the roadmap, sorry. We then needed to support the roadmap with our Go-Forward Plan. So we developed the Go-Forward Plan, and it was published in April. So it defined the scope and objectives of the Go-Forward effort that was represented in the roadmap. It defined the approach to achieve the objectives, the work streams, and the activities necessary to complete the work. It defined the team to complete the activities. It defined the organizational change management approach to be able to transform our organization, and it defined the governance and decision-making structure for the Go-Forward Plan activities. So the communication for the Go-Forward Plan. We socialize that through all of our state and federal control agencies. Again, all awareness of all parties. So after we had the Go-Forward roadmap, we needed to develop a picture of our as-is and our to-be organizations. So all of the planning done through June resulted in a document that captures the vision, strategy, and roadmap, and it's called the concept of operations. And some of you may be familiar with that as a technical term. It can define a system, but it can also define an organization. So our concept of operations is defining the CA-MMIS future organization. So it defines our as-is organization, and then what the to-be organization is going to look like. What are the roles that are changing for the state's integration role, an expanded vendor management role in a modular multi-vendor environment, and the organizational structure needed to support the to-be organization. The concept of operations, again, is following our same communication and governance approach. We've briefed the director, the Health and Human Services Agency. We are going to be briefing the Department of Technology and Department of Finance in the month of November. Again, awareness of all parties. This concept of operation also supports a budget request that we have on how we're going to move forward as an organization and transform the organization. So it's going to be a very good supporting document for our budget requests. So some of our planning tools, just a little bit about the tools we use. To go forward with our plan for replacing our system, we're going through a Gartner best practice methodology, and we're called application rationalization. So basically we're documenting the as-is and to-be state of our system. We're looking at our current applications and their technical health and their business health. And then we apply a methodology to ranking those systems, and then they come up in a Gartner Magic Quadrant view, but I'll show a little bit of how this works. So you see the quadrant, there's technical health, there's value, high value, low value, and minimal value, and then business value. So basically, you want all of your applications up in that right corner. That's your optimal place. The lower left are those that are at most risk and are not achieving the business value that they need. So we're going to be using this approach to set a value to all of our business functions and applications, and then looking at how we're going to build our roadmap for the future in terms of replacement of the system functionality and the modules associated with it. This is the matrix. This is an example of how some of our systems are charting out, and where we're looking to those that are at the most risk. So those in that bottom left corner with the big red dot is like one of the most high-risk ones, and the bigger the dot, it also represents more change that's happening. So it's not technically healthy. When it says minimal value, it means it's not meeting the business value, and it also has a lot of change going on in it. So those are the ones that are going to start rising to the top in our planning as we look to replace our system. So as I said, the takeaway for us was that conceptual representation of vision is a powerful communication tool. Use of tools to aid in your decision making. So we do have, I didn't bring all of our templates, but we do have another effort we're doing is all of the strategies around our new organization, how we're going to handle vendor management, how we're going to handle change and release management, how we're going to handle communications management. We have a strategy document for every one of those activities, a 1, 3, 5-year view of each of those activities. So where we want to be in 1 year, 3 years at the end of the contract, and 2 years after the end of the contract, where we want to be. And the key artifacts, the other thing is every one of these just built on the other. So we originally had just a kind of a high-level go-forward planning strategy. We laid out a strategy. We started out with that procurement roadmap. It ended up evolving into the go-forward roadmap, which evolved into the go-forward plan, which led to our concept of operations. So just building on each prior planning activity before it led us to the stakeholder buy-in and then our vision for our future. And also we have a strategic plan, which isn't in here. So the takeaway is just continue to seek feedback and input from your stakeholders. They all want to help. They all want you to succeed. And so it just can't be overemphasized, the communication, just continuous communication with your stakeholders. Transparency and frequent communications. And then, again, bringing the stakeholders along. They were able to understand the progression of our planning and our thought process and our approach and our vision and how we are going to move this organization forward with the linkage of each artifact to the one before it. Next steps, we are going to then now be looking at the detailed planning and execution of all those work streams. That will be our next activity. The concept of operations lays out the change, and now we are starting to address how will we be implementing the transition and the change, secure the consulting and the state resources. So that's our budget request going in, and then doing the transformation activities to move our organization forward to be ready for our modular multi-vendor environment. And that's it. So I'll turn it over to Lorenza.
Thank you, Melody. I'm hoping that at the end of this, we'll have a few minutes for questions and answers, because I think there's a lot of good information that you'll want to query more. And Melody, the information that you said that we weren't able to provide, the other templates, we have a contact sheet at the end of the presentation, so if people are interested, they can ping you, right?
Yep.
All right. All right, Lorenza, there you go.
There we go. Hi, everybody. I'm Lorenza Pennington, Project Director for the MEDS Modernization Planning Project. So thank you for being here at the end of the day. My project is a little different. I have the luxury of being in the planning phase of the project, of this modernization effort. And this is where decision-making, governance is very key, and it has a potential for a very positive impact on the future phases of the project, where you actually go into the design, development, and implementation. So you can have a very fluid implementation if you make the proper decisions up front. Done too late, you can have a painful process, and it could negatively impact your scope, schedule, cost, and emotions. So that is very, very real. We all probably know how that feels. So what we're doing here, for a project this complex that crosses so many boundaries, we really have to look at this very hard and look at it at the planning stage and not skip any steps there. So MEDS is the state's Medicaid or eligibility data system for Medi-Cal. 35 years ago it was developed for the purpose of handling about 1 million or 1.5 million beneficiaries for Medi-Cal. Over the years it has evolved, and now it houses and holds information for over 13 million beneficiaries with multiple health and human services programs. So it is being challenged quite drastically. It's not what it was actually designed to do. So, and also, this system is very central to a lot of entities. It is used by our 58 counties, several departments throughout the agency, and even beyond. Right. So, the situation. So, you can guess that after 30 years, there are going to be challenges with a legacy system that's primarily written in COBOL. And it's evolved. This is a system that's owned by DHCS. It was developed there, and it is currently maintained there. But it is having difficulty in keeping up with the program business needs, and that is a significant challenge. Also, it's at risk for losing enhanced federal funding, and that's very serious for the organization. And in order to be able to continue to enjoy that, it does have to mature in its technology. And the federal government has to see that efforts and steps are being taken to at least lay the foundation that's going to allow for the future growth of this system in that fashion. But for all of the trouble that it has and all of the challenges, you have to give a hand to MEDS and to the Department of Healthcare Services, because the system, it's stable, it's secure, and it works. And there's a lot to be said for that. That old technology has a lot of good qualities. And those are the types of things that you really have to make sure that you don't lose going forward. So a lot of attention is being paid to that. So DHCS began this effort in this life of the effort in late 2014. And that is where they had the plans to modernize the MEDS technical platform. And it was launched really as an IT project with just looking specifically at the technology. But several changes did come about, taking a look at the complexity of MEDS, the fact that it really has so many different stakeholders beyond Department of Healthcare Services. It's not what it originally was. So there were some decisions that were made to handle the effort a little bit differently. So the project was transferred to the Office of Systems Integration, and it was formalized July of this year, 2016. And the purpose of the transfer was to ensure that the experience and expertise that OSI has in managing these large complex that cross boundaries such as this, that we could take advantage of that, because it does go beyond the walls of Department of Healthcare Services. It also shifted from a purely technical focus to a focus on more of a business program look. And even though we are taking a look at MEDS, the system, and we're upgrading that, you really can't do it without taking a look at the program, involving the program partners, getting their input. And even though it's going to, we may limit the scope that we're doing today, but we have to do it with the eyes of what the vision is going forward in the future. So we need to talk to people now. We need to understand what the impacts are, whether they're now or in the future. So very significant project which really needed to have a lot of input across many different areas. It was also reinitiated as a planning project, and that is stepping back and really taking a look at the plan before embarking on trying to do some design and development. Let's make sure we have an appropriate plan. And in doing so, even though this project started earlier than the California Department of Technology project approval lifecycle, the decision was made, let's take this back, let's retrofit some of the work that has already been done in this initial phase, and let's use the project approval lifecycle. So that is something that was done for this project, and it was implemented, and that S1BA, which is phase 1, was actually approved, I believe, just early September. And what this allows, the PAL, it actually is going to help us to ensure the communication and agreement at top levels, helps with the decision making, and it also links us to agency and state IT infrastructure so that it has you taking a look across the board. You're not going to be doing things in a silo if you're following the project approval life cycle. But there'll be more on this on a future slide here. And then we also started the engagement of the multiple departments and stakeholders and partners across the organization. The project team actually includes representation from our sponsors, different program areas, and different key players. It has governance, stakeholder management, communication, heavy emphasis on collaboration. So because of the complexity, the multiple departments and entities, it was moved over. So you can see here where all the project partners are. All of these project partners have representation in the project. The sponsors, where you see Social Services, Department of Healthcare Services, we have team members as part of the team. OSI is doing the project management. The consortia, they have single points of contact, and we also have a liaison that is part of the project team. We also have that for the County Welfare Directors Association. We have a liaison part of the team, and it represents, they represent the counties. We have the CalHERS project representation as well with the liaison. We also have CDT that we're working with, and they're part of the project, and they will be with us all along the way. And we expect that we're going to be identifying others as we move forward too. So you can see here some of the work that's already been done through the planning phase. And in late 2014 and early 2015, there was a business rules extraction effort that already took place. That portion was completed, but now it continues to be maintained by Department of Healthcare Services and IT. In September, there was also an as-is documentation effort that was performed, and that includes documentation of the architecture from the business, information, and technology. It didn't go as far as taking a look at in-depth business process to impacted parties, but that's work that's going to be done in the next stage. In March, there was a very important series of sessions that were conducted, which were visioning sessions with the executives, where that gave the executives across the board an opportunity to express what they envision for the future of MEDS modernization. Then in July, that's when the project officially transitioned from DHCS to OSI. And we were also successful in selecting our planning vendor, which, by the way, happens to be Quantum Consulting, Chris Dunham. And then September, just a couple months ago, we got approval on our project charter, project governance, communication plan, and that was a result of the visioning sessions and the work that was done, and we got those signed off. But those are documents that will be revisited and updated as we move forward. In September, we also received approval from California Department of Technology for the Stage Gate 1 business analysis that we retrofitted. And that was done pretty efficiently because as we were retrofitting, we visited with CDT and we worked with them, and they were able to advise us on how to handle certain things and prepare it for the S1BA form. And so once we finally submitted it to CDT, we had the approval in approximately 30 days. So the early collaboration during the first stage gate was very effective, and we got the quick decision. We also selected an alternatives analysis vendor, PCG, Public Consulting Group. They actually onboarded with the team September 6th, and they have been on board with us, absorbing a lot of the information and documentation and interviewing folks and learning where the project's at, so that the project is at to plan the go-forward plan and the working sessions that are up and coming. And now that they're here, we initiated Stage Gate 2. We got the approval from CDT, we got the vendor on board, we got people identified, and we started the alternatives analysis effort. Stage Gate 2. And that didn't turn. All right. You may have seen this already. I stole this artwork. This is a representation of the California Department of Technology project approval life cycle. And this is really intended to ensure that projects, as they move forward in the planning phase, they actually do the proper work, and you actually are able to see, you know, the organization or organizations are ready to take on the work that is there. And also, do you have the proper business objectives identified? Do you have a reasonable schedule? They look at it to look for key points, and then it also facilitates decision-making and provides the information so for you to take a look across the board so you can actually deliver quality projects. And then you need to get approval to get out of the planning phase to actually get into the design, development, and implementation. So it is broken down in 4 stages, as you can see here. We completed Stage 1. We're in the middle of Stage 2. Stage 3 is in the future. We're not addressing that right now, but we will following this stage. There will be a lot of discovery that happens during Stage Gate 2. There's a lot of analysis. And what we're doing now, our main focus, is to determine alternatives for the modernization of MEDS. So, if we want to take a look at the next slide. So this is a portion of the activities that you'll see in Stage Gate 2. And in this one, you'll see they're doing the baseline work, validating the processes, doing mid-level requirements, doing market research, and all of this is being done with input across all the stakeholders. And we're inviting subject matter experts from the various areas. What this will do is it'll result in approximately 3 alternatives, different options that will be proposed for ways to address the modernization of MEDS. And those alternatives will become a recommended solution after vetting is done with appropriate parties, the stakeholders, the decision makers, our executives. So then the recommended solution comes forward, and we do the more detailed work for that specific solution. including the data conversion, the migration strategy, as you can see here, procurement strategy, the financial analysis, and the staffing plan. So this really is a high-level timeline, and what you're looking at here really is September 1st through April 30th. That's where the core of Stage Gate 2 or the alternatives analysis is occurring. We're now in November, so since September, there's been a lot of work that has been done, but beginning now, we're beginning the work sessions with all the stakeholders across the board. We have single points of contact that have been identified, and subject matter experts that are being identified. And then as we get through the working sessions, we'll be facilitating the addition of others as they come up, as seems appropriate. But in this timeline, between November and April 30th, there's a lot of activity, a lot of work sessions, and then there's also checkpoints with the Project Steering Committee and our executives, where they're going to be getting updates and we're going to be sharing with them, hey, these are our findings, here's the direction we think we're going in. These are the types of alternatives that we think we're seeing, and we're getting feedback. So that this information, these alternatives are going to be shaping, but they should not be shaped in a silo. So by the time we get to an endpoint where we talk to our executives and we say, hey, these are the alternatives that we talked about, and here's a recommended solution, and then you can dialogue around that. It's not like you're starting from square one and with a product and throwing it at them and having them make a decision. So here, it shows the approach for accomplishing this. We did secure the contractors, as I stated earlier, PCG. We identified single points of contacts who represent the organizations and identify additional resources that need to be involved in the work sessions. We are initiating the work sessions now with cross-functional representation for each of the sessions. And then we're involving the sponsors and partners throughout the process in order to achieve and maintain the continuous buy-in. And collaborate, collaborate, collaborate. And that really is what it's all about. And we can't underestimate the value of the collaboration required for these complex projects. We need buy-in from folks. And if we run into problems, we need to be able to have people say, yeah, I may not like exactly where we went, but I was part of that discussion, and I can deal with it, I understand it, and it's likely you're going to get quicker decisions. Okay. So some takeaways for this. You know, begin with a clear business program or actually business needs. Make sure you understand the business and make sure that that is what's driving the technology. Even though it is a technology project, it really needs to be driven by the business need. You have to understand that. Make sure that you secure the agreement with the sponsors and the partners, and do that by the constant collaboration and communication. And when you secure that agreement, you'll want to memorialize it in documents and decision logs. Creating a planning organization separate from the actual maintenance of the legacy system is important. We've done that. OSI is managing it from the project management perspective, but working directly with the sponsors and the stakeholders. Implement the governance as a foundation to complex multi-sponsor and partner decision-making. Make it interactive. Make sure that it isn't just a document that sits out there in a periodic meeting that you have. Make sure you engage your folks. Conduct that communication planning. Get people's input on it and revisit it regularly. What are the needs? Are the communication needs changing? If so, modify it. And then deliver transparent updates. Keep folks involved, continue to communicate. Including the sponsor staff or stakeholders in the project is one way to be transparent. They're not only hearing what you're telling them, they're hearing what their folks are telling them. And so that is a way to keep it very transparent. And then leverage other project experiences and reuse where possible. I'm going to be leveraging some of what I heard Melody talk about. We've already talked about application rationalization. A lot of the work that we've done and are doing really lends itself to that, and we're excited about the possibility of being part of that enterprise solution. We're taking a look at the good procurement work that's been done in other projects where they're taking a look at different procurement approaches. They're paving the way for us Changing a procurement approach for state government is significant. So I feel privileged that I'm going to be able to leverage some of those efforts that have gone before me. So I'm excited about that. I'm glad to be in the planning phase of this project and being here at the time that I am. I feel very fortunate. So the next steps that we have is we're engaging the folks across the board, across the organizations, doing collaborative work sessions. Those are happening now, the month of November. We're also bringing on additional staff. We want staff that are going to come in and help us with that governance, make sure it's dialed in, everything's documented, we're doing the appropriate risks and issues and all of that. And we're also hiring stakeholder management. There's going to be additional stakeholders that may pop in or out depending on where this whole thing is evolving. So we cannot underestimate the need for stakeholder management. And finally, we will also be conducting the periodic reviews with our executives and our control agencies, making sure that we're on track for the future as this very critical project. And I think that's all I have.
All right, well, Lorenza, thank you.
Thank you.
Melody, thank you. Chris, thank you very much for putting this all together with us. I'd like to give them at least a round of applause. And again, I think the most important thing that we've kind of heard, and you're going to probably hear more of, is being able to communicate with the people and your sponsors and your stakeholders out there in the IT world. Not only that, but then working with them to try to figure out how those business needs fit back to the IT pieces. So I want to say thank you very, very much for coming today. These were two great examples of two projects that kind of went from one project that was already in flight, kind of went back down on the ground and now took off again, and another one that's just starting to get in flight. And I think those two projects are going to be ones that are going to become templates for some of the other projects that will be coming forward in the several years to come. Hopefully you'll get a chance to talk to Melanie and Lorenza, because they both have some great information about where they've been and where they've gone from. But what I'd like to do is get some questions. Does anybody have any questions for Melanie or Lorenza? No one? So you guys are all ready to go out there and do your own projects, huh?
It's the end of the day.
All right.
Either one of you, were there any efforts that you did around improving communications, team building with the team, so different agencies can work more effectively together?
So we're doing a lot of internal team building with our internal CA-MMIS team, but we have been trying to be very inclusive of all of our control agencies, and so we're bringing them along each step of the way. So I didn't do team building, but we have been very inclusive of briefing them of our strategy, and then as we develop the plan and the roadmap, go back and take them back through it and remind them why we're doing this, so each step of the way we kind of bring them all the way along again until we get to that next artifact or that next decision that we're trying to get support for. So that's kind of how we're working it right now.
Yes, and something I find very effective when you're working with multiple areas, I find that taking the time to help them understand the other area and being involved in that, I think, goes a long way. Each department or area can talk about their own, and they understand what ails them. But to sit through sessions, extensive sessions where they listen to each other and they talk, and then together they work through and identify, well, you know what, I know this hurts me, but I can see that problem is much bigger for you. I don't like it, but yeah, yours is priority. Getting that understanding, a lot of people think, that's not my business, I don't need to go. You go ahead and have that meeting separately. Pull them together. Take the extra 2 weeks it takes. If you take that 2 weeks up front, they understand each other, they prioritize. Later they go, yeah, I agreed, I understood. But it really saves a lot of time on the back end. And I found my first project with the state was exactly that. And it changed. It was 3 departments, and they were disparate, far apart from each other. At the end, they delivered the project, unified, they prioritized it. I kind of stood around. They didn't even know I was facilitating that. They did it themselves. So it was very effective, and the project was successful.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, trying to how best to articulate this question. My question is this: the staff that was working on projects, how were they able to do your normal day-to-day job and at the same time work on the project? Did they have to have it like
Yeah.
included in their duty statement or?
So we have a blend, you know, some of the projects do have dedicated resources, so they do have the luxury of dedicating their full time to it. But always, when you have a project, you're going to need input from others in the other spaces that who also have jobs. But it is the responsibility of the project team to help shape the work, the questions, the materials in such a way that it makes it more efficient on how the subject matter experts who aren't dedicated are able to contribute to the project. We cannot just go out there and expect them to show up at a meeting, start from the ground up. We need to frame things for them. We need to make it easy to facilitate that information flowing in.
Yeah, in our case, this is, everything we're doing that you saw on that roadmap other than legacy operations is all brand new work for our organization, and so we've had to redirect people or pull them away from other activities to participate in getting us this far, but that's why we have a request going in for this next budget year to get more resources to continue on with the transformation and the implementation. So it's been a real strain for our organization to get this far. We've had to rely on a lot of our consultant staff that are on site, as well as redirecting our state staff. And then our program partners at DHCS, we have a governance process where we've been bringing them along, and it's been some additional work for them because we're looking at some prioritization of our legacy systems and how we're going to approach our modular replacement. And so, so it's been, it's been a little extra work for them that they hadn't planned on because they thought we were going to be implementing a new system, and now we're kind of stepping back again a little bit. But everybody's been very supportive. But it's really a resource constraint, and I think it's really great that they've been able to get a planning team and the resources necessary. You don't normally get that, and we didn't get it, but they were able to get it. So yeah.
Yes.
Well, I guess our time is.
It is. I want to remind everybody to go online and do the evaluations, please. And I don't know if there's a particular link for that. I see your sign back there, but
I think it's on.
please do that. That really helps the conference planners. It helps all of us understand how to better communicate with you in these sessions. And thank you all very much for your attention. And there's a slide at the back, which Tim needs to press, and that is the contact. So contact information is there. If you have more questions, they're available to answer, and
Yes.
we share information across the board. So thank you
Yes,
very
we
much.
do. Thank you.
Thank you.